Welcome to Blend's Localization Leaders series, where we interview industry leaders who are paving the way for advances in localization through their work. This episode, we sat down with Canva's head of localization, Michael Levot. For those that don't know, Canva is an online design and publishing tool with a mission to empower everyone in the world to design anything and publish anywhere.
So just to get a bit of context on, your perspective and your background, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started, how you arrived in your current position as head of localization at Canva?
Yeah. Well, the early part of my career, I spent studying and teaching linguistics, which was sort of how I got into localization in the first place. My first role was working agency side for a company that did AI annotation and other language technology data collection. And I was very, very lucky that there was a role at Canva in localization in Sydney in about the 2 months that I was looking for a job. So I won the lottery there, and the company has sort of grown literally tenfold, more than tenfold in the time I've been there. So there have been a lot of sort of natural opportunities to increase the scope of responsibility, and more people have come on board and opportunities have come that way. But the literal way that I came to be in the position is that my wonderful mentor and manager, Rachel Crothers, has moved into a slightly different role at Canva, still in the international space. And that gave me an opportunity to move out of the marketing localization space and into localization across a few different verticals.
I know a lot of people kind of tend to come from the linguistics world, or people start out as translators. I mean, your case slightly different. So it's very interesting. So you're kind of more well-versed in like the technology side of, or at least you started out more well-versed in the technology side of localization, which I'm sure is a huge advantage.
Yeah, definitely. I think that has been a big advantage coming into a technology company, and also on the localization management side of things, having a good understanding of where a lot of these translations and other resources and data that we work on end up, and the sort of tools that they're trying to improve. Yeah, definitely agree. It's a big advantage.
And how is localization actually structured at Canva? How do you guys approach it? Because, every company, depending on their needs and how new localization is to them, they kind of structure things super differently and might change over time. So how does it look like for you?
It's in constant flux at Canva. As things have changed, we've changed our team structure. When I joined, we were a team. There were 5 people, I think, who were each focusing on different needs within the company. And then we went through a phase of being a sort of anarchistic syndicate of people scattered through the company, which was a really fun time. And I think we gained a lot of understanding of the different business needs. And now we're a little bit more mature. We have a lot more people, because there's a lot more parts of the company that require localization. And we're a group of 4 teams with a few sister teams that aren't actually under our umbrella, but that we partner with really closely. So we're a product localization team. We work with product teams and designers, engineers, and those sorts of specialties. We're a marketing localization team, as I mentioned, and a localization operations team, which is kind of more focused around localization technology. They manage our translation management system, for instance, and look after quality across all of those different verticals. And we have a internationalization engineering team, which is staffed by infrastructure engineers, the clever people who actually make things tick and work together. So we're very grateful for all of their work. 3 of those teams are housed in our marketing division at Canva, which is kind of a strange place for some of those teams to be, but it's kind of just happened through the development of how Canva has evolved. And the engineering team is housed in the infrastructure part of our business, where more appropriate managing lines and things like that for engineers. So they're a little bit different.
Leadership, people might not give resources or might not initially be convinced that localization is a worthy investment. So I don't know if you have any advice on how other departments might want to grow, or even if it's one translator, a localization manager in a company that wants to push for something more, what you would say about that.
But I think the biggest factor for us has been that people like Rachel Crothers, our CEO, Mel Perkins, and some other people, Tomi, Georgia Vidler, other people have really done a great job of instilling the value of localization, not as a business need or as a tool for business growth, but as something that would enable people to use our product, which they and I think is a really valuable tool that helps people to improve their lives and enable them to grow their own businesses. Which I'm sure sounds a little bit like I've been drinking the Kool-Aid at Canva, but it is true. And I think we hear all the time that people have been able to use our tool for their own personal success. And we have a great free product. So I think that's, I think the point is that people really respond to values, and that's a really powerful way of communicating the importance of localization that isn't related to, the bottom line. That said, I'm definitely a numbers person, and I think we've had some really great partnerships with other teams by learning their needs and by speaking in the metrics and the product terms that they understand and that drive their needs. So recently we partnered with our customer support team who look after our help center, sort of frequently asked questions, and also the support where people can email Canva and get an answer to whatever it is they need an answer to. And we worked really, really hard to understand what they were trying to achieve. We understood exactly what metrics they were trying to move. They were interested in helpfulness ratings, where people say, yes, this was a helpful interaction. They were interested in deflection, where people say I was able to resolve my own problem without having to raise a ticket. And we were able to really sell what we were trying to do in those terms. And I should say that we also were very lucky that they had a wonderful product manager, Anna Kelk, in charge of that team, who was very interested in localization and had that empathy with international users who might be trying to resolve a problem. So we got lucky in that respect. But the whole engagement was really productive, and I feel like that's a great example of how we should be going about showing the value, the sort of bottom line value of localization to product teams. You can't do it in the terms of localization. You can't talk about word rates. You can't talk about AQA results. You can, but you need to frame them in the sense of something that's relevant to that team.
Yeah, it's almost like, you're basically using the idea of localization on other people by changing the way you speak about it and meeting them in their terms. And
absolutely.
I love that advice. I haven't heard that yet, and that makes a lot of sense. You're just basically meeting people in their language and speaking to their values, what they care about, fixing their problems, and that's a great way to kind of get people on board. Were there any markets that were particularly challenging to break into?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a few times, and I feel like the answer is always really boring because it's the same markets every time. Japan, Germany, China, India, these markets have unique ecosystems for search, and cultural and material barriers that are different to other parts of the world. So I think they're always a little bit unique, and we've had great success in those markets, but only because we've worked really hard at it. But I've been trying to think of a more unique answer to a question like this, and I think something that's more surprising, where haven't had the success that perhaps we might expect on face value, is the whole continent of Africa, including North Africa and the sort of Arab states in the north, where not to be naive about it, there are of course economic differences, access to internet differences, and access to technology compared to Southeast Asia or Latin America, but there are also these huge digital economies within Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, South Africa, other places where the language of the lingua franca is English in many cases. It seems like a product like Canva that is free, that has a value proposition based around enabling small businesses and individuals to monetize their own assets. It seems like that should be able to rapidly scale in Africa, and that hasn't been the case for us yet.
Right.
So I think that's something I'd really like to understand more, and just what it is that we're not doing, or that we're not doing right to really make an impact in that region. In other regions like in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, where we've had great success actually, but Japan and Korea, we know that there are these kind of different search ecosystems. They use Naver instead of Google, or they have for wallets instead of credit cards, and these sorts of things. But my understanding, at least, and I could be very ignorant here, is that in Africa, Google is still sort of the dominant search platform. Smartphones are proliferated through a lot of the continent, or at least the more wealthy parts of it. So it seems like there shouldn't be complete barriers to adoption in those regions. So it's a little bit surprising to me, and it's something further down the track I'd really love to devote some time to.
I just wanted to know if you have any advice for other either budding localization managers that are just starting out, or someone that's interested in the industry and hasn't quite jumped in yet, if you have any advice.
Yeah, I think similar to what we were discussing earlier, I think I had the benefit of really being able to indulge, probably for the first full 5 years of my career, in the craft of localization or language technology more generally. And by that I mean I was always interested in the technicalities with quality, with measuring quality, and the post-processing, as we called it, being able to automatically detect errors and those sorts of things. And very in the weeds, exactly the opposite of what you might expect to benefit someone who's looking to move through management levels. But it meant that when I got to Canva, which was a completely foreign animal to me, having moved from vendor side to buyer side, it gave me that luxury of really being able to just completely devote all of my time and energy to learning what the business was about, and being completely immersed in different parts of the business instead of trying to figure out how to do the nuts and bolts. And I think that was really beneficial to me. I don't know if I can recommend it because I've never tried it a different way, but it's definitely very enjoyable way, I think, to go about things, that you get to really commit yourself to two different things at different times and never feel like you're split between two different masters. It was a really good way to go about it in that respect.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I think we'll slip into our rapid fire questions and wrap this up. So you can answer as quickly as you can, but if you need a second, that's okay. So what's your favorite language?
Sharmuki, which is Punjabi, as spoken in Pakistan, has haunted me my entire career. Every time I have a challenging language, it's always Sharmuki, so I'm going to go with that one because I love a challenge.
Okay, awesome. And your favorite localization tool?
Hot take, but Google Sheets.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting. I wouldn't expect that. All right.
Yeah,
Do you want
so
to
then as
elaborate? Or I guess this is rapid fire. You're not supposed to, but I'm
I
curious.
should elaborate before I alienate some of our other tools. I think do not use Google Sheets for doing localization, but for analyzing localization and for
Hmm.
quickly spinning up ideas or hypotheses. It's definitely the most useful tool apart from Canva that I use day to day.
Cool. Awesome. Favorite place you've traveled to?
I'm appallingly poorly traveled, unfortunately, but I'm going to say the tiny town of Volos in Greece near Thessaloniki, which is where some of my family live.
Ooh.
I spent some beautiful time there.
Wow. Sounds amazing. I've yet to make it to Greece.
You
Um,
should.
Best localization advice you've received?
My first week at Canva, Rachel Crothers sat me down and said dollars and cents. And she didn't elaborate, so I'm not going to either.
Okay. Respect. The most successful market that you've invested in?
Brazil.
Wow. Awesome. Um, your localization nightmare?
Um, I once had the CEO of Canva direct message me because I had broken the Canva homepage in a localization initiative. He was very, very lovely about it, as she always is, but I still wake up in the middle of the night every now and again thinking about it. So that,
Sounds like it. Yeah, sounds like a nightmare. Who's your localization role model?
uh, Rachel Crothers and Simon Hammond, who are two of the most talented and generous people I've worked with.
Amazing. And then to wrap it up, your localization crush. So can be another company that whose localization you
Mm.
admire.
There are a few of them, but I think Spotify have some of the coolest
Mm.
localization stuff. They get to
Yeah.
work with music, which is really sexy, and obviously that's
Yeah.
really fun. But they also do a lot of really cool stuff with creative, with imagery and with their wrapped and with their playlists and with their social media as well. So I think Spotify.
Yeah, absolutely. Very creative. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. It was really nice speaking with you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Pleasure speaking with you too.